Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
No matter how many stars there are in the sky, no matter how many galaxies swirl beyond our own.
Uh-oh.
Tracking locked on an inbound UFO. It appeared out of nowhere.
No matter what the mathematical probabilities or the number of times we say we are not alone in the universe.
It's closing in but slowing down.
Our first visit from the stars is always the province of children's stories and science fiction. Talk to me.
Telemetry is confirmed. UFO is not of planetary origin. It's from outer space.
First contact with aliens always lives squarely in the impossible. First contact is just a dream. Until one day, it isn't. What is that?
So one day it isn't. Yep. So, any of you guys out there? Had any extraterrestrial experiences?
10 hours a day, he exercised to lose weight, but ended up with a plump chest. It was a great shame being called Mrs.
He conducted a series of to visualize the effects of sound waves on various materials, such as fluids, powders, and pastes, by placing them on a vibrating surface or membrane, like a metal plate or a drum head. By altering the frequency and amplitude of the vibrations, Dr. Jenny was able to create a wide range of intricate patterns, demonstrating that different frequencies and waveforms produce distinct shapes. Cymatics provides a fascinating insight into the relationship between sound, vibration, and form, revealing that the invisible world of sound has a tangible and visible impact on the physical world. It also demonstrates the interconnectedness of the universe, as the patterns generated through cymatics often.
So I worked on that for many years with many different people. And that's where I came in contact with people who were part of Operation Paperclip, who were back in the 20s and 30s in Germany communicating with extraterrestrials. Let's see. I think I have some photos of that. Here we go. Here's my third wife, Stephanie. This was our loft in Westbeth. A loft, a commercial building that the city made for artists. And I was one of those artists who helped build Soho, so I got, here's a good picture. Here's John Cale, my buddy John, and here's Yos, a Mossad assassin who was sent to kill me. And only because I was having breakfast with John, and this guy loved John, that I didn't end up dead. And here is Judy Collins. This is at a place called, not Montana Palace, but the other one. It'll pop into my mind. Here's Christine. The smartest human on the planet. This girl was the inventor of computer graphics as we know for films and moving pictures. She was one of the founders of SIGGRAPH, special computer projects of the IEEE. She helped start New York. She also started New York Institute of Technology. She also, um, her PhD thesis at Stanford was the algorithm that made computer graphics possible. So here's one of my Tesla coils. I was able to transmit billions of volts through the air and create lightning. We were doing a symposium at the United Nations. Here's down in the basement at one of the, they gave us to make into a laboratory. And where's the pictures of the boys? Here's a mural I did right here. I pretty much did it with masking tape and my fingers. I had a few brushes and a couple spray cans. But those flowers, I kind of did with my fingers. Here's up in Ithaca, when we basically, Ithaca and the 3 counties, we basically left the United States and became a separate entity on itself. And because Cornell and Ithaca College had enough smart people, we did it. We did it for 3 years, right? Until everyone got bored. And then they said, so here we are stopping the Shoreham nuclear power plant. And this is how we did it, with fun. It's kind of how you have to do. When I say fun, here's Garrick. Here's the Rainbow Gathering. I think this was in Pennsylvania. And the sea camp was full of road dogs, and they kind of pissed off the cops. So the cops were being mean. Here's my beach. I bought this beach in Long Island. It's right now next to Southampton. And my father got very upset when I did it, even though I got it for a song, a nickel. Here's another picture of it. And I put buildings that were strung all over Eastern Long Island. Eastern Long Island out near Montauk is like more like New England. And so here is one of our non-everything. This is a kind of nightclub that I started. I had a bunch of them. Where the pictures of the other boys are. But as I was saying before, you kind of have to live your life, not in fear. Right? You just do what God tells you to do, and it works out. Here's some of my boys, some boys and girls. These guys were street kids that I grabbed off the street before they were about to get arrested, right? And I turned them into electricians, right? Gave them a place to live. This guy got his master electrician's license in New York City, I had one too, but I had Grandpa Stahl as my back. Mike, his son, was my father, and he kept me. Hey, here we go. There you go. So this guy, he was one of the Nazis from Operation Paperclip, right? This is 1984, and he was 32 in 1929. And he was working for with the the reptiles, right? And here we are, and this is at the UN, and this is 1984, and the World Wide Web had just come online, and we did this conference around the world, right? And I was in charge. I was the executive director, and that's how I was like dressing like the stand-up comedian president of Ukraine today. That he got that image from me. I mean, everyone was wearing suits, and I was in charge, and these guys had some real juice, but I had the look like computers were in those days. And that was high tech. That was cutting edge. Oh, this guy is actually Satan. Not a bad guy. Kind of nice, And he was all for us, giving. Oh, there's my sweetie. There's Donna Ann McAdams. And this is when we had DNA Studios, right? And here's Brown, Canadian, very famous for anti-gravity research. And again, I had no idea what the heck I was doing. I was just doing it. I was doing theater in the street, right? We were redoing Macbeth here. Right? Here are the witches, 12, Boyle, and Bubble, right? Here's Judith Malina. Julian had died. This is the Living Theater. And, Living Theater was in many different different things. Here's my art. I did this art piece in the basement of the Whitney Museum, like where the boiler was, right? And I just stuffed the place with TVs. And what does it say on there? One World Order. That was 1984, right? And no one was really talking about it. And here's Detlo. I mean, this kid was like just quiet and just shy. His father was a Nazi. And I grabbed him, and he was brilliant and loads of fun. Here's Beth Lapidus. She's pretty famous stand-up comedian / poet / visual artist. She's LA girl these days. Here's David. David and I, we were doing the Homestead thing. Right? He was a military adjutant. I was the technological adjutant. Oh, here's this is me, and this is Carrie Shea. She was a political fixer, probably the most powerful person in 1984 in the Democratic Party in New York State. And this was what's her name? Sarah Ferguson. She helped start Brooklyn Academy of Music. Right? And we were all just youngsters doing what God told us to do. Here's a good guy. This guy was an African king at the UN, right? So he was whenever I wanted to do something, he was on the top thing of everything, right? Whatever he said, he could get anything done, Julius? No. Close. But yes. So this is like fun. This is like, so this was the Rainbow Gathering upstate New York in Ithaca. And so New York State had no national forest, right? So you couldn't have a gathering in New York State. But the Iroquois Nation, Grandfather David, and his son David, who was the chief at the time, I was, part of their crew. And Grandfather did say, "Oh, hey, we have some property. We have 1,000 acres. You probably could do." And it was like this farmland. It was beautiful. It had the most beautiful meadows, and they didn't grow anything that spring or summer because we did the gathering on it, and we went to the. This was in Trumansburg, upstate New York, in the Finger Lakes, right overlooking the Seneca Lake, and so we would have when we were doing seed camp. So I built this road. I got really good at building roads, right? And here's the kind of fires we would have in the evening. And, we would get so hot, even in March when it's snowing and cold, we could take our clothes off and run around like Indians around the fire and dance and drum. And those kids from Ithaca College and Cornell just loved it. Oh, here's a good, this is 91 and chemtrails. Oh yeah, that's just commercial airliners. So gang, if you don't realize we are in this throngs of something weird come this way, so we have to stop lying to ourselves about who and what we are, right? And we are not our mud puppet. We aren't this, And we aren't even our soul. Our soul is a bioelectrical device that connects our chakras to the world, the shamanic power points of the what are known as ley lines. And there are points on these ley lines, like the pyramids in the Valley of Kings in Egypt. And there are pyramids everywhere. In every continent, there are pyramids. And down in South America, there's pyramids. The United States, there are pyramids. Ireland has pyramids. All over Europe has pyramids. And they're energy nodes, right? And back, way before even recorded history, back before, that's what, the most oldest and, archaeological thing that we have dug up of antiquity before Jesus by 60,000 years, maybe 100,000 years, is the Tablet of Gilgamesh, and basically that is the story. If you go watch the movie Forbidden Planet, that is the story of Gilgamesh. If you go to Shakespeare and what's it called? It'll pop into my mind. One of Shakespeare's plays was again a take from Gilgamesh, and H.G. Wells' Island of Dr. Moreau was Gilgamesh, right? Shakespeare, what was it called? It's right on the tip of my tongue. I played it many times. I liked being Enkidu because Enkidu was an animal, as Shakespeare and the Greeks said. He did not come from a woman, but he was more human than any human. So I like thinking of myself as that. It's the guy who goes through the door first, When I worked as a conflict resolution officer for the New York City Housing Authority, that was me. I got trained to shoot, kill, be a cop, but I didn't because they gave me my partner. Nobody wanted to be with her because she could kill any. She was like, and so we were the ultimate good cop, bad cop. I would walk in first, flip flop shorts, Hawaiian shirt. Obviously, the only thing I would have that represented my authority was a little, what do they call those things you put around your neck with your photo? And so that's so other cops wouldn't kill me, right? So, I would just walk in with that. And we worked in a number of the housing projects along the east side from Canal Street up to 21st Street on 2nd Avenue. There were housing projects all, in the Lower East Side and Chinatown and Little Israel and Little Italy. There were housing projects. Some were 5-6 stories high and kind of looked like little multi-family dwellings, which they were. And there were others that were like 16, 17 stories with 100 apartments in each building. that were more like jails, right? But there was the two of us, and our thing that we had responsibility over were 15,000 units because me and Dave and this other bunch of folk started a thing called OR, Outstanding Renewal Enterprise, and we took over city and state owned properties with the Homestead Act of 1876 and put pretty buildings, and we put 500 families in our, and we would just take them over. Let's see, I think I have a nice image of us taking over a building. Oh yes, here we go. This is us breaking into a building on, I think, Avenue D and 9th Street, kind of near the crack. That movie about the big building that had all these crack guys in, that was us. I mean, not us, but that was the neighborhood, right? And here's one of our collective meetings, right? And I had some video, so I had Dave always videotaping everything. So when people say, I didn't say that, we had the video of it. And here's a TV show that I helped produce, Potato Wolf, for about 7 years. And we were like, before Saturday Night Live, we were doing even more. So here's Carlo Altonmonte and Alchemical Theater, right? We had a couple of theater groups, right? Here's Rolando. Rolando's out right by me. Here's Sweet Pat. And this guy, he was quite interesting guy. He was an idiot savant, and he was a physicist, right? Was one of my physicist buddies. And, they were just chewing him up. Here's another one of my kids that I grabbed off the street and turned into an electrician, and she became amazing. She went and ended up working at the Skunk Works making robots, and then she worked at what's the name of that college that's big into not MIT but the other one, I think in Pennsylvania. The name will pop into my Brookings. No, I worked for Brookings. She worked for, I forget. But anyway, she did a lot of stuff after she got her chops with electricity and me, and she ended up in California. And she ended up, I don't know if you ever saw on the TV, some cable TV network, they had Robot Wars. She did that. She, had the idea. She was working in a company that were making killing robots. And this is like, 87, 88, and then she worked, she did that and did very good and sold, she was producing it and she sold that and got a nice chunk of change. And then went to, there's a company in Boston that is the big company in robots. And she worked, the last I heard from her, she was working there making real, robots that could walk around and punch you in the face and shoot you in the head and stuff. And that company is they have them called dogs, these big machines that you can load tons on that have 4 legs and can walk anywhere, right? That's that company. And, again, it's about being in the right place at the right time. There's Judith again. This girl, she was a sweetie of mine, and she was at NYU. She was really good forensic anthropologist / she had a PhD, MD in psychology and a PhD in forensic anthropology, and that's how I became a psychosocial cultural forensic anthropologist, right? And her best friend from childhood is this young lady who was one of the goddesses of punk music, and she was a drummer. And I had this thing for rock and roll girl drummers, and so she was best friends also with my girlfriend, who was a drummer. Her name was Jane Fire, the Jane Fire Band, and so these girls, and her other best bud was the girl who played for Prince. There's me painting away back when I was like in my 30s. So I painted because I love painting. Just like right now, I write because I love to write. And there's one of my students who is, publishing a book and about happiness, and I'm sure he'll be quite successful. And he wrote it, and it was all about him. And I said, no, you need to, if you really want to be successful, you got to step out. You can tell your story, but do it anyway, long story short, he would get upset when I would give him pointers. And then I just said, okay, I've taught you what I can at this moment, because he went from idolizing me and me being his, he would call me, he didn't call me sensei, he called me shaman. Well, that's a whole different kettle of fish, right? So I am a shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic alchemist, yes, but I am no shaman, right? So you kind of have to do that from birth. All of those, having that nice little cocktail of all those disciplines makes me a good scholar, but that's what I am. So I'm sensei. I'm a teacher. That's what sensei is, a teacher, right? That's why I do this show. I'm teaching you, right? And it's, and it's an alchemical, shamanic, energetic that I put out into the World Wide Web, just like I did when we did our little alternative technology shtick at the United Nations. We were an NGO, and so we did it for a good 3 years, and kept coming back and doing, step-ins to do a little this and a little that, like this project, because George Christie, who's one of my mentors, one of my last, and he was the guy who dug up a number of mystery schools and put them in a blender and made the ISIS Foundation, right? And he wanted me, so I was his Padawan, right? Because I gave this speech at the UN about, augmented technology. This is in the 1980s. Again, it was part of that conference. We had 6 different ones over a year, right? And they kind of came out of the U.S. Psychotronic Society, because DARPA had kind of infiltrated our little organization and kind of took people over. And, guys like Preston Nichols, go read his book, The Montauk Project, which gives a good taste of what that was. And I've been around a lot of stuff like that because I like playing with those toys. But when you sign that non-disclosure thing, and you sign up to be part of the team, basically they get in your head. They wipe your mind. They don't let you be you. If any of you guys ever saw Preston on a TV or a video or in person, and again with Al Bielek and his Duncan, his brother. So Al Bielek and Duncan were in the Navy when they did the Tesla experiment, the Philadelphia experiment, Rainbow, that's what they called it, Rainbow. And, they made a dimensional bubble around the Eldridge, and it transported it from Philadelphia to this other place, to where one or the other, from either Philadelphia, where the experiment was going on, to the place the ship was built, and then came back. And it did it very quickly, like 20 seconds. But the people on the boat thought it was like, 5 days. And people were on fire, but still alive, frozen, but still alive, walking around like Mr. Freeze. Some were stuck in the bulkheads of the boat because when they popped back into wherever the experiment started, they were, stuck, in that dimension. In that dimension, they were in the bulkhead. In this dimension, they were here. And, but they were still alive, stuck in a bulkhead, and they couldn't get them out. It's like, not too cool. And still, the government did it 4 more times. Nice of them. And so Duncan freaked out and jumped overboard into the dimensional soup and popped out into a time travel experiment in Montauk in 1960 something or other. And he was, 18 years old, where Al, his twin brother, Al Bielek, stayed on the boat. And so when Duncan popped out of the time tunnel, he's 18 or 17, and Al is, 40 something, 48, close to 50. So whenever you see these two guys, they were like twins, and they kind of look just alike, like that's Dad and that's Sonny Boy. No, twin brothers, Al Bielek, Duncan, right? So anyway, these are the guys in the U.S. Psychotronic Society I hung out with. And I basically, when things got too weird, I got professional. I said, sorry. So I would get hired as a consultant. And that's how, those entities got around my presence and allowed me to do math thing. But at a certain point, they said, okay, unless you're going to sign on here and be one of those monkeys, it's time for you to go. So I was always happy to go. And they always gave me, then I had to sign a non-disclosure thingamajig about those specifics, but not things I didn't know about, right? So at a certain point, that's why I'm a shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic alchemist, because I would go on to the next subject matter. I hear someone talking. No, motorcycles. The cockroaches are back. Anyway, so I have a good almost 2,000 or maybe 2,500 stories, and they're all here on this channel. Go back, start from the beginning, and work forward, right? And if you don't like it, go on to the next one, and then the next one, and next one. They're all there every so often, where I'm sure the powers that be have clipped out a few. I thought I had over 2,000, but I mean, I've been doing this for almost 5 years, and I've been doing it once a day, maybe twice a day, sometimes maybe 3 or 4 days in between. I don't do anything because I don't feel like it. But as long as it's relatively easy, I can do it, I will do it. Let's see how much juice is left here. Okay. So we got about 10 minutes. So anyway, anybody got a question? So I feel very blessed because I have had an amazing life. And because I've never understood. I mean, I've always thought that this just happened, I had no idea, and basically I always was there to do, I'm a slave to God's love. Whatever, I have no idea. I don't whine or I don't cry. Oh God, change my life. It sucks so bad. Blah blah blah. No, Oh, if you take care of this, no. I'm here to serve, not serve. Be God's slave. There's a big difference. Serving is like, here, have a donut. My thing is, God, whatever you want me to do, I'm here to do it. I only have one master. Now, I've had great teachers, I've had great mentors, but I have only had one master, and that's God's unconditional love. Right? And that's why when I was in all these entities, the high hippie holies of all these things would, go, yep, well, we love Al because there's only him. And we have to kind of let him, do what he does because he has no idea what he does. But in the end, it always works out for us. So we'll just let him keep doing that. Right. And that's why I live like a millionaire on $400 because I don't need any kind of proof. My brother spends ungodly amounts of money to prove that he's rich, just like my dad did, right? He spent all his life making that money to do that. Me, I could make a nice chunk of change on a project here and there, and then I go live all over the world having a good old time. When I did, about 2002, maybe, 2000, or 1999, I started working in the corporate world, but still I was the itinerant scholar. Probably 2002, I started being the consultant, right? Which was a different thing. They would give me a specific project and I would go off and do it, right? And usually took me somewhere between a week or two to 5 or 6 months, right? And they would pay me ridiculous amounts of money to do it. Then I didn't have to work for that rest of that year or the rest of 2 years. And if I was kind of involved in something that took me longer than a couple of weeks, I would end up, I bought a place in Stuart, Florida. I bought a place in the Keys. I bought a place in Lynchburg. I bought a place, 3 places no, 10 places in Roanoke and 2 places in this little town called Bedford because I did these projects. I was kind of living in those neighborhoods and, I'd rent something or I'd camping because all these areas, I was near national forests and I would just camp there. And I'm a big camping guy. And I had my bus. I drove that around and just, found a nice. And sometimes people say, oh, what are you doing here? And I would just say, well, no, see you later. Bye. Back up, drive away. So that has been my life because basically, I've had amazing women in my life and amazing friends in my life. And a good deal of those women are still my friends. And a good deal of my friends are still alive and still my friends. It's interesting to have really good friends that you've had for 50 years. That they love you, will take care of you, do whatever you call them up, they're there for you, right? I see people around here, not so much, right? Everyone's trying to take advantage of each other. They don't know who they have to prove stuff, show that they're cool or they are rich or they are powerful or they're great or they know what they're doing. Not so much. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just here to be. My only master is God's unconditional love. And I go through Jesus's unconditional forgiveness to serve to be God's slave. Right? So why is this kid driving around like that? Big deal. How, it's boring. Plus the sound is really loud. It's going to make him. Everyone I ever knew who was a professional motorcycle rider died of lung cancer from the asbestos in the brake pads and the exhaust. Right? Everyone. Steve McQueen died of that. So why do that? Because a kid wants his father's attention, and his father wants him to be a great motorcycle. Anyway, how much time do we got left? Oh, we're in the red zone. Gotta go. Well, I hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you next time.